Now that we have introduced the three valleys of Jerusalem, let us turn our attention to the Hinnom Valley. Yes, the Hinnom Valley is associated with death and hell, but that was not the way it was in the beginning, because God creates everything good. God was there first in Genesis 1, creating the land and calling it good. This valley and the water that flowed through it was part of the flow of life on the earth. How this land was horribly defiled is a story we must also tell. But as Arthur Burke likes to say regarding defiled land, God was there first. The first mention of this valley in Scripture is in Joshua 15:8, and it is called Ben Hinnom, or the son of Hinnom. Who was Hinnom and the son of Hinnom? That is the first mystery of this place. But whoever he was, his valley became part of the border of the tribe of Judah, for it is in defining Judah's boundaries that the Bible first introduces it. Joshua 15:8 says, "Then it ran up the valley of Ben Hinnom along the southern slope of the Jebusite city, that is, Jerusalem. From there it climbed to the top of the hill west of the Hinnom Valley at the northern end of the valley of Rephaim." Now, what is this mention of the valley of Rephaim? That valley, Emek Rephaim, is marked today by a road called Emek Rephaim. That name means Valley of the Giants. This valley, which flows to the Mediterranean Sea, comes up almost meeting the Hinnom Valley, which flows to the Dead Sea. That line between the two valleys is called a watershed. This watershed defines what water flows west to the Mediterranean versus east to the Dead Sea. On that watershed are some famous landmarks. The first station, which is the end of the railroad line built by the Ottoman Empire. Another landmark on that watershed line is the King David Hotel, the hotel in which presidents and heads of state stay when they visit. The watershed line runs very close to the city tower, the tallest building in West Jerusalem. The boundary between the tribes is not, however, the watershed line. It is in the middle of the valley, in the bottom of the valley of Hinnom, and then shifts to the top of the hill, probably about here at the top of the end of the Valley of the Giants. The next mention of the Hinnom Valley is in the tribal boundary description for the tribe that borders Judah, that is, Benjamin. Joshua 18:16 says, "The boundary went down from the foot of the hill facing the valley of Ben Hinnom, north of the valley of Rephaim. It continued down the Hinnom Valley along the southern slope of the Jebusite city." This description seems pretty much the same thing, right? Except for one difference. Did you notice it? The path of the borders are proceeding in different directions. The description of Judah's boundary is heading westward, uphill. The description of the boundary of Benjamin is heading eastward, or downhill. Why? Could it relate to God's design for how the tribe of Benjamin and Judah should cooperate? Or is it a sign of the struggle that this valley will be for Judah? Is it a sign of the clash of Eastern and Western cultures that have always earmarked the land of Israel? But without a doubt, Jerusalem has to be part of the answer. Jerusalem is in the region of Judea, the name for the land controlled by the southern kingdom of Israel after the 10 tribes would split away to the north. Jerusalem is in Judea, but Jerusalem is not in the tribal portion of the tribe of Judah, but rather it resides as part of the tribal lands of Benjamin. The boundaries clearly show this. Benjamin was the only child of Jacob who was born in the land of Israel, and into very difficult circumstances. His mother died in childbirth. He never got to know her. So Benjamin gets the honor of holding Jerusalem. Perhaps this is also the reason that the first king of Israel, Saul, was from the tribe of Benjamin as well. And what about the Hinnom Valley as regards Jerusalem? In those early days during the life of David, before there was a temple, pilgrims to Jerusalem would have traveled down the valley of Hinnom to reach Jerusalem, where the tabernacle would have stood. In addition, you can see that if Judah's borders were more straight, Judah should have included Jerusalem in its territory. But instead, it is as if there was a notch cut out to allow for Jerusalem. Much of this notch is defined by the valley of Hinnom. In history, Judah made a tremendous sacrifice for Benjamin. In Egypt, Judah was going to imprison himself in place of Benjamin. And this notch is almost like an eternal banner for that great sacrifice, showing that Judah also gave Benjamin the honor of having Jerusalem in its territory. But in another way, Jerusalem can be thought of as being between the two tribal boundaries, since the city borders the land of Judah on the south and is at the edge of Benjamin also. What could God be saying in this? Well, practically, it helped strengthen the union of all 12 tribes. Judah was the son of Leah, and Benjamin was the son of Rachel. So in that sense, it was essentially a neutral ground, a good place for a capital city. Even in the United States, its capital, Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, is situated between Virginia and Maryland. Virginia definitely being a dominant southern state, and Maryland being more neutral. In the same way, Jerusalem was located right on the boundary between dominant Judah to the south and more congenial and less confrontational Benjamin. And thus the capital of Jerusalem was born, with its southern and western borders being the Valley of Hinnom. Next time, we will discuss the horror that happened there. Until then, this is Bob Odell with Root Source saying, Shalom.